Well, hello students. I'm making this video for you over the weekend to let you know what's coming in for next week. We finally have a first full week, which I think is fantastic. Now we are able to focus on one chapter now for the week. So this is essentially what I am planning on doing. We're going to be covering chapter 4 on Monday and Wednesday. And Friday, I will assign, that is this coming Friday, September 13th, I will assign you to do a quiz, which is an upload link, as you can see on your computer, to do an essay format, okay, over the weekend. Now, the quiz isn't a lot. I'm going to ask you one question for each one of the chapters that we've covered over the first 2 weeks. We've only had 4 days. And that question will be answered by 2 substantive paragraphs. That means 2 or 3 sentences, okay, in each paragraph with at least one reference. You can use your book as a reference. You can use your notes and what you've taken on my lectures as a reference. You can use something that you can look up. You can Google it. Just make sure you download the URL so I'll be able to read essentially what you said. You can look at PowerPoints, okay, that downloaded. You can reference those. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to use as references. It's part of research, and as you know, everything you do has to do with some research component. So look up the information, you have to find it somewhere, right? Okay, so what am I going to cover in chapter 4 next week? What I'm going to cover in chapter 4 is understanding the global context of business. So if you remember when we went back and we talked about page 8 in your book, that nice little trusting diagram that I'm always referring to. Global context of business is huge. We live in a universal type of environment right now with businesses. So the global market essentially has evolved into major world marketplaces. And a lot of these marketplaces are held together by trade agreements and alliances. So a number of factors are going to affect how countries and businesses respond to the international environment. So further, managers and even entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs that we've talked about in Friday's class find themselves challenged by a number of factors that are going to influence international involvement. So this chapter essentially is going to discuss the overall dynamic nature of international business and how it is shaped by social, cultural, economic, legal, and political differences between nations. So essentially, the objectives here in this chapter are to look at the rise of international business and describe the major world marketplaces and different trade agreements and alliances that have built up over time. So we're going to look at how differences in import-export balances, exchange rates, and foreign competition determine the ways in which countries and businesses respond to the international environment. And then finally, the factors involved in deciding to do business internationally and selecting the appropriate levels of international involvement and international organizational structure. So this particular chapter is going to introduce the business plan project and how it is going to be introduced in this chapter and how we're going to run this project through the majority of the course. So anyway, this is pretty much an overview of what we're going to cover, and I'll see all of you on Monday. Make sure you read the chapter before you come to class. Thank you. Have a good weekend.